It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me.
Craig, shut up.
Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's...
Welcome to another Reality Check with Craig Price. I am your host, Craig Price, and we've got a great show for you this week. Sales guru Shawn Doyle is going to join me to talk exactly that. Talk about sales, prospecting, following up, all the horrible things that I'm not good at. I've always been very awkward in the sales process. I get most of my work from referrals, which is a great way to get work, because when people vouch for you before you even talk to a client, that's a great in. That's a great way to be introduced to people. But I'm not a salesperson. A lot of speakers sell from the platform. They say, they're hawking books. They've got CDs. They've got all kinds of garbage in the back of the room to sell. Some is very good, and a lot of it's just redundant crap. They're just trying to force feed you so they can make some money. Oh, I'm sorry. It's called a passive revenue stream. I forget my sales talk. But I'm not that person. I even forget to mention I even have a book. I mean, it's in my introduction, which I tell people they can use or not use. If they don't want to talk about my book in the introduction, that's fine. A lot of people actually, at the end of their speeches, say, and you can buy my book in the back. I don't even bring my book with me. I mean, I forget it a lot of the times. I forget business cards. I mean, how stupid is that? You got to meet people, and you don't even have business cards with you. So when it comes to sales, the mechanics and the techniques of sales, it's not my strong suit. And thankfully, I look to other people to help me build those muscles up. I wish there was, some steroids I could take, because if there were steroids out there for sales, I would be chewing on them right now. I don't care. But alas, there is not. And from my experience, the only way you can make it in the world is through hard work or rich parents. I have neither. But we could talk about how bad I am at sales, and in fact we do in the podcast, so why waste the time up front? Without any further ado, let me give you Shawn Doyle.
Yeah, and you're a Philly guy.
Well, I'm originally from Virginia, so we're all transplants from somewhere else.
So what made you go to Philly?
I took a job at Comcast.
Oh, is Comcast based in Philly?
Comcast headquarters is downtown Philadelphia, so I was a VP of Learning and Development there, so it was a good opportunity. So I actually moved from Florida to Philadelphia, but I was born and raised in Virginia, and I know I don't sound like a Virginian.
Well, where in Virginia, though? It depends.
Martinsville, Virginia.
I've been to Martinsville. Yep, that's where the racetrack is.
That's just south there, son.
I got heat stroke in Martinsville, Virginia. Did. I spent most of the race. They have the big NASCAR race. I spent most of the race inside the nurses' station, eating ice cream with 22-year-old girls. I was 12.
Doesn't sound too bad.
I was 12 at the time. My dad is jealous because he'd go up and check on me, because this is back when you were, this is early 81, 82,
right,
when you could leave a kid
to wander around
go to the nurse's station. Off I'd go, or he'd bring me to the nurse's station, and he'd go, well, I'm going to go see the movie. And he would come back, and every once in a while, so I was watching the race on closed-circuit television, which was unusual back in the early 80s.
Eating ice cream and being around beautiful nurses.
Yep. And
sounds terrible.
It was awful. I
would never want to do that.
I know. It was tough. And then he wondered why I never wanted to go to the racetrack again. It's like, I don't want to get heat stroke. It's rednecks turning left, going around a thing and turning left.
Well, it's when I do training and people say, where were you born? I say I was born in I was raised in Martinsville, Virginia, and they say, well, that's not the South. I say, well, here's an experiment. Go to Martinsville, find somebody who's lived there all their life, and suggest they're not from the South. See what kind of response you get. It's something like, what'd you say?
Well, yeah, no, of course, my background, I know that once you get past that Manson-Nixon line,
Manson-Nixon.
Yeah, the crazy peoples. It's below that is nothing but crazies. Above that are elitist, arrogant.
That's right.
Intellectuals.
The urbanites of Washington, D.C.
They like to think they're intellectuals, but they're not. And I'm here with Shawn Doyle, just so you know, where they're babbling about why we hate Southerners and Northerners equally.
That's right.
They both have their good points and mostly their bad points.
That's exactly right.
And we're going to talk about sales with you, because that's one of my biggest weaknesses, which is, an oxymoron. My strongest weakness is my sales.
Weakness.
Yeah. The weakness that is glaring and knocks people over.
There you go.
Is like I said, more of a prospecting situation than sales. I guess I do okay when people contact me, but I have a hard time interrupting people, because when I go to a sales thing, or not sales thing. When I go someplace, I get tired of people harassing me, or at least I feel harassed.
Meaning, like what?
Meaning that, like when I went to a car wash, the guy who fixes the rock chips.
The windshield people?
Yeah, he asked me 3 times on the way from my car to the door, hey, I can fix your chips. No, that's okay. No, it's free because they get the insurance to pay for it. I'm like, no, I don't need it. And he's like, no, I can really do this. And I go, do you understand what no means? I said, I'm just trying to get from my car to the door. It's 5 feet away. I want to go into the air conditioning. It's 109 degrees here in Houston. I want to get the car cleaned, and I want to do it.
You're out.
I want to do it inside where I can watch it in the air conditioning. But that's what I feel like when I go to Best Buy and I'm browsing somewhere.
Right, exactly.
They come over and, hey, is there something I can help you with? No, I'm just browsing. Because
something I can help you with? No, I'm just browsing.
Yeah.
Every zone you go to, there's a different person who gets assigned to you or something, and they chase you around the store.
Or my favorite one was when I went back home recently and went to the Best Buy because a friend of mine works there, and he wasn't there at the time. I just thought, maybe he's at work. I'll give him because high school friend. I hadn't seen him in years, but I knew he worked as a manager at the Best Buy. I go in, and there's like 15 guys in blue shirts all hanging around in one spot.
Chasing you around the store.
Well, they weren't chasing me. They were harassing other people because I guess I was dressed like, it was my summer attire, so I was dressed like
Like you didn't have anything.
like a homeless person.
You mean like you're dressed now?
No, I'm dressed nice here. I shaved and everything.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, this is nice. You have no idea. This is nice.
That's scary thought.
Yeah. You should see what I look like when I dress for a presentation. But they were literally harassing this one couple as they walked through the televisions. It was like 3 people asking her questions and like 9 people watching to see if like blood in the water.
Well, that's why people don't like salespeople. That's why people don't like pushy salespeople, and that's why a lot of people even resist going into sales. I mean, if you're at a party or an event and you're in sales, and somebody says, "What do you do?" and you say, "I'm in sales," and they say, "Well, what did you want to do?"
Oh, really?
Like that's not a profession. It's like some sort of strange accident that you became a salesperson.
Well, I do get insulted when people go, "You know what? You'd be perfect for sales." I'm like,
oh,
like what?
Yeah.
Why would you say something so awful? Why don't you just call me Hitler?
But there's a big difference between a salesperson and a sales professional.
Yeah, well, of
and
course.
That's the big difference. Is if it's a profession, then you would study your craft and learn all these different things, and you would.
I wouldn't study.
You wouldn't.
No, I didn't study in school. Why would I study?
Yeah.
No, but I get your point. There's difference between like retail sales and corporate sales.
Correct. And account executives, and
yeah,
even the term account executive is a little more elegant than salesperson, right?
Yeah, sleazebag doesn't really want you to buy from a sleazebag. But that's the problem is that when people think sales.
It's an old glad handing, slap you on the back, gee, your kids are cute, why don't you buy a car from me today, and high pressure, shove something down your throat, sell you something against your will. That's the classic stereotypical sales portrayal. And unfortunately, it's true.
In some instances,
anybody bought a car lately? I mean,
I just bought a car in the last couple months against my will.
There you go.
And my wife uses me because I can say no, so I go in there and negotiate. And since I don't want to buy it, it's a lot easier when you have all the leverage when you could care less.
They don't care.
At any moment, I was willing to walk, and I walked in there telling him, I go, look, I don't want to buy this car. You know why I want to buy this car? Because that woman right there will make my life miserable if I don't. But guess what? I can tolerate that because she'll get better in a couple weeks if I don't buy her the car. We'll go someplace else.
Well, good negotiating tactic.
Just go in, and my dad used to buy cars. When he would walk in and he would negotiate. He's a sales guy. My dad was a salesman for 20 some odd years.
Wow.
He sold technical services for transformers, electrical transformers.
Okay.
He would stick his head into the break room or back office area because usually it was open and look at the chart, sales chart, because it's all very competitive and they want
Sure.
And he would look at the person at the lowest at the bottom of the list and he would ask for that person specifically because they would be desperate. Go at the end of the month and he'd work them down, and then we'd start talking about finances and what kind of deal can we get, what can we do this, and then he'd say, oh yes, I have a trade-in, which back then meant more than it does now.
Yeah, so he's doing one piece at a time, which is a smart way of doing it. We have the price, we have the trade, we have the financing, but they're all separate.
And then
you don't negotiate all at once.
And then at the very end, he'd pull out a wad of $100 bills.
And what if I pay cash?
I go, what if I pay cash right now?
Get a better deal, right?
Oh, thousands and thousands of dollars off. It was. I couldn't do that because I just walk in, pay list or leave. I'm that kind of guy. If I don't like the price, I'm not buying it.
Right.
But I think a lot of people, there are really good salespeople out there, but unfortunately the stereotype is what really is predominant, the cultural idea of a salesperson.
The old school salesperson with the plaid jacket and the cigar. Yeah.
So how can we eliminate that in some of our first contacts with a client? Because I automatically feel just by contacting somebody, I've got a little slime on the phone.
Yeah, and I mean, I hear people even saying the term, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be salesy. So, my background, just so you know, is I've done sales training for 22 years. I have been both a seller and also a buyer, and I think that's a unique perspective because I can look at the sales process from the buyer's perspective and also from the salespeople's perspective. So I think the first thing that's critically important for anyone to think about out there that's listening to this is really to your first initial call. You should have done your research before you show up.
That's what Google's for.
Google, Hoover's, Manta.
What Manta is, you were telling me earlier about Manta.
Yeah.
Because I've heard of Hoover, and I've heard of LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn's huge.
Is a great one. Actually,
Great
it's probably
research.
the biggest one.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the other one that...
Hoover's.
It's not Hoover's. There's another big one that's off my head. I can't think of, but Manta is a new one.
New one. It's manta.com. It's free to join. Sign up for an account, and when you sign up for an account, then anybody else who has an account, you can see their record. So if I pull up, Smith Company, it will tell me all of the executives, their names, all the information about them. So it's really, really well done and very useful because it lists every single employee, not just the CEO or the CFO or the COO, but all, and so let's say I sell to, buyers or I sell to
purchase managers.
Right.
Yeah.
A specific niche of that company. I can look up the niche of that company based on the list on Manta.
So say we're going to, like I said, I want to call the purchasing manager.
Right.
In this particular instance. I would never do this because I don't have anything of like a corporate thing to sell.
Right.
I would call HR
Right.
or maybe a CEO or a VP of something.
Right.
Only by a referral.
Sure.
That's how I do it because I don't like calling people without them knowing I'm going to call them. But to reduce some of the slime.
Yep.
So I'm going to call the purchasing manager out of the blue. How do you? What can I do to make it seem like obviously I'm calling because I want to sell something? Because I wouldn't have called them.
Right. Well, I think that the best way is to call when they answer the phone, and instead of trying to sell them something on the phone, say, "I just would like to. I've been reading about your company. I've studied about what your company does. We have a whole line of products and services. I would like an opportunity to sit down and meet with you to see if there's a fit between you and our organization products and services."
But you're not really setting up an appointment at that exact moment. What you're doing is, I guess you're going to need to ask them some questions, I assume.
No, I'm going to set up an appointment to go see them in person.
Okay, so there's no
Nope.
like bonding.
Nope, there's no
none
bonding
of that.
because you got to remember how busy buyers are these days.
So you have no problems
Nope.
calling for a 2-minute conversation.
Right, just want to set up a meeting, and they also appreciate it because you're not wasting a lot of their time.
Well, that's why I do a lot of email.
Right.
I call
right.
it permission selling. Permission selling as far as I get permission to call them. I
Sure.
send them an email,
Right.
and they can look at it whenever they have time. They can look at it and go, oh, I don't want to look at this right now.
Oh,
They
that
can
works
delete
well.
it.
That works well too.
Results are not 100% in yet. But that's what I do is because I don't want to interrupt them.
Right.
And they can look at an email whenever they want.
Yep.
And then if they like it, they can email me back or call me.
Sure.
But if they email me back, that tells me I can call them pretty much whenever I want, unless they specifically say something like, say, call me sometime. I feel free. I don't feel like I'm harassing them.
Well, let's take that a step further. Let's make that even better. If I'm linked to them on LinkedIn, and that's the goal, to link to everybody in the world on LinkedIn.
Is that the goal on LinkedIn?
That is the goal. Absolutely the goal.
Because I figure once it gets too big, it's just like looking
No,
at the phone book.
I have 12,300 direct connections on LinkedIn as of today.
And can you name me all of them?
Absolutely. Let me start with the A's.
Okay. Adam, Aaron.
That's right.
It'd be Aaron, Adam.
That's right.
Okay.
But the idea is, if you're linked to somebody on LinkedIn, here's the thing. It is permission marketing. Because now I can email you and say, hey, Craig, you and I are linked on LinkedIn.
Are you a LinkedIn?
You're part of my You're part of my network.
Are you a LinkedIn Pro?
Yes, I'm a premium level on LinkedIn.
Yeah, because you pay for the services.
Correct.
That means, what is it, unlimited emails to people?
Correct.
Okay.
But I'm not going to send them an email on LinkedIn.
No. But
I'm going to send them an email saying, you and I are connected on LinkedIn. I would like to have the opportunity to come by and talk to you. I'd like to do a phone call to set up an appointment. Because now we have connection. You and I are connected on LinkedIn. You've already agreed that you want to be connected to me. I can now send you an email because if you're connected to me on LinkedIn, I have your email, not your InMail, which is
Right.
a LinkedIn goofy system.
Yeah.
And then I can call you and say, let's figure out a time to get together. And now we get together, we have a couple things in common, because we're connected on LinkedIn, I can now go in and do lots of research on you. Because the second thing, Craig, which is critically important, when you sit down across from a buyer, you do not want to say something silly like, and this has happened to me a million times when I was a buyer, so tell me about your company.
Because I'm a moron.
Yeah, because I'm a moron, and even though you
No,
have
I'm sorry.
a Fortune 500 company,
I'm
I
a
don't
lazy-
know anything about you.
I'm a lazy moron. I'm sorry. I didn't mean I'm a lazy moron.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Really? You want me to take my valuable time to educate you about my company?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Here's the brochure. Get out the door.
Or here's the other one that's even worse. I'm supposed to establish rapport.
They actually say that?
No, they've been trained.
Oh, okay. Because I mean that's horrible.
No.
Hi, my name is Craig. I am here to establish rapport.
But it's
Well,
almost as clumsy.
like a
because-
Vulcan.
Yeah,
I have no
I'm
emotion.
Here to establish rapport. But what's even worse is they don't say they're here to establish rapport, but they do the silliest thing, which is I had a whole bunch of lighthouses in my office, little lighthouse models, glass, wood, etc.
For what purposes?
I just love lighthouses.
Okay.
And so they would sit down and say, so do you like lighthouses? No, I'm just renting them.
Yeah. This is no. Wait, this is the
No.
lighthouse storage facility.
That's right. Or they look at a picture in your office, it's behind you, and say, is that your family? No, I just keep pictures of strangers in my office for no reason.
No, these are much better looking than my kids.
That's right.
If I showed you mine, you'd vomit. So we want to keep moving forward.
But it's so lame because if a buyer has
Well,
20 people calling on them a week, 80 people calling on them a month, 1,000 people calling on them a year, every one of them is going to say, do you like lighthouses?
Well, it also sounds just insincere almost immediately.
Right, I go, and actually I got so irritated, I started meeting with people in a conference room so they wouldn't ask the silly questions like that.
And they go, do you like conference rooms?
That's right.
Do you like large tables with multiple chairs?
Do you like padded chairs with arms?
I like chairs too. Am I building rapport?
Yeah, yeah, wonderful.
Do you
yeah.
feel it?
Yeah, exactly.
So is that now that puts you in an advantage as a buyer if you have a meeting in a conference room.
I've taken away all of the goofy rapport.
Yeah, well, all the fake. Now they actually have to ask a question and learn about you instead of just make up
Exactly.
assumptions.
But see, by going on LinkedIn and looking at their profile, though, we can get lots of inside information about that person, and we can do lots of research on the company. And so the better way of establishing rapport would be to say something like, well, I researched your company. I understand you do this, 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 and this. That's correct. And you're in this department, yes. What are some of the things that are your biggest challenges? What are the things that keep you awake at night? What are some things that you're looking for? Right. Now, that's a different question than, do you like lighthouses?
Yeah, because that's a BS question. But also
Right.
And now you just bring up LinkedIn because LinkedIn as a buyer, I can actually look at your profile after you've emailed me
Exactly right.
and find out, who are you?
Who are you, and what are your
So
recommendations
you have, Yeah, you have 12,000 people connected, but you have 4 recommendations. Something's up. Not that you do. I don't know what you have, but I mean, if I saw the volume of recommendations to connections, it'd be like, well, this guy knows a lot of people, but not a lot of people are willing to step up to the plate and say something.
But what's interesting is when I talk to buyers now on the phone, we get to the end of that little teeny conversation, and they say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? And I say, well, you can look me up on LinkedIn, and they look and they go, never mind. I go, what do you mean? They go, we got it. I want to meet. So my profile is developing credibility with the person even before I show up.
Yeah, like I said, they can figure out, well, who the hell is this guy? And
Right.
they go look it up, and oh yeah, I see this guy. He knows a buddy of mine because doesn't it show you connections?
Yeah, if we know the same person, then
And-
you know so and so. Yeah, you know Craig, really? You mean the guy who wrote that book? You mean Craig the realist? Yes, that Craig the realist.
So you're
I
basically,
read his book.
So basically, you're calling my parents. That's what's going on. So we're identifying.
I love that book. It was
Identifying,
fantastic.
Identifying people who've read my book. My parents. My wife would be slightly confused for a little bit because she read it in early forms. But you could easily build a better rapport, a more sincere and authentic rapport.
Right, and the best way to build rapport is to find some sort of connection
Right.
between you and I. If you like bass fishing, and I find out you like bass fishing, I'm going to learn more about bass fishing because that's how we're going to connect.
Okay, and so now that I've got now I know what I'm going to do when I get the person. It's just
Correct.
it's finding the right person because
Exactly.
you're in this. I think you're in the same situation though. You do have a very good niche in the cable industry,
Correct.
but you also have other services that are what I like to call nicheless.
That's right, nicheless. Can I brand name that? Nicheless TM.
Yeah, if I see it,
The king of nicheless TM.
Yeah, I
Kind
am-
of like the realist, but I'm
Yeah.
the nicheless.
they'll be calling you, what's this Nietzsche-less guy? But a nicheless situation where you really, even though you hear a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't think everyone wants your stuff.
Right.
But you really can. It's one of these situations where, yeah, I deal with management, any managers. But it's what industry? Well, the good thing is any industry.
Doesn't matter.
Really industry? Well, in this particular instance, yes.
Because leadership is leadership is leadership.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're a cookie manufacturer or, whatever, seafood.
But to find the right people, it can be somewhat difficult. Because
Correct.
I know what I'm going to say now, because it's great to know what you're going to say before you actually call people. Because
That's good.
It's a little rehearsal would be helpful.
Instead of going,
yeah.
yeah.
So, but it's finding the people. So when you do your research, when you're on Manta, which, like, again, sounds like it's kind of icky, may not be a site that'll be appropriate for children. Right. You go onto Manta, and you're researching what, like, keywords, what things are you looking for?
Well, I think what people listening to this need to think about is who is your most common buyer. And so, in other words, in my industry, the person who's most likely to buy my products and services is somebody in HR, somebody in training and development, or the CEO or the COO. So if you know who and Tom Wininger says this all the time, who's your highest level responder, right? And that's a great term. So who's most likely to be the person who would be the decision maker? That's who I'm going to look for first in that organization.
I found that HR people, though I love HR people, especially
the ones
they
are wonderful.
Especially all my clients that happen to be HR. But I have found out that in some instances, not my clients, but in some instances, HR has a tendency of being the block. They
right.
Especially if you're I don't do a lot of training, so I don't really worry about this. But when I have done training in the past in other companies, the HR system has been difficult because a lot of them feel it's their job to be the trainer, so they don't look outside. So how do you get past the HR person to the CEO who will recommend you to the HR person who will do what they say?
It's all about positioning.
Yes.
Because I say you're a resource for your company as the HR professional that you are. SPHR or whatever you are, right?
SHRM or something like that.
SHRM, yeah.
Shrimp, SHRP, I think is
sounds like a radio station, but you're the person who finds the resources. So it doesn't matter where the resources come from, internal or external. When you get a call from your CEO or your COO, you need to know where to find it. I'm that resource for you, and my goal is to make you a hero. So I'm not preventing what they're doing. I'm actually helping them do what they need to do.
Right, and I know a lot of HR people have that mentality, but be honest, there's some HR people who don't.
Right.
Especially from a seller perspective, it often goes into the black hole of HR.
Well, and some HR people don't do the diagnosis; they just write the prescription. And so I say I would be part of your collection of prescriptions that you could write when someone else, and that's usually how it often happens. Somebody else says, "We have a problem." HR, we have a problem. What do we do? And HR says, "Well, we have a great resource." And then they look good by reflection because I come in and do a good job.
Okay. So now I found the right person. We'll say it's the CEO.
Right.
And I've called up and I made the report. Now the first call, like you said, is not necessarily a long, drawn-out conversation.
Just set an appointment. That's the only objective. Get an appointment with the highest level responder that you're going to call on.
So now I've got my proposal set. I'm prepped and ready to go.
Yep.
I'm walking into the CEO's office because I've got my appointment.
Yep.
What traps do I need to avoid?
We want to make sure we do all the research that we can, which we just talked about. And then the second thing is to not go in and do some sort of dog and pony show. I see this all the time. Well, I want to show you and I actually saw this happen in a boardroom with a CEO and a COO and a CFO and let's name a whole alphabet.
CCA or
SVP and
CAA is
CIA,
my agency.
FBI, FYI.
W2F.
That's right.
Okay.
60-page PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
A deck of paper. The CEO watches this for about 10 minutes. Excuse me. Yes. How many slides are there? There's 60. I don't want to see 60. Give me the 10 that matter. He didn't know the answer. He said, well, this is our, quote, official presentation.
Yeah.
So I think it's completely wrong, completely wrong. What we should be doing is going in, which is what I do. I practice what I preach. I go in with a legal pad and a pen. And I say, I would like to have a discussion with you, Craig, about where you are and where you want to go and what your needs are, etc. I'm not going to be presenting anything about myself or my company. My goal is to find out if there's a fit between you and I. And I do 45 minutes of just Q&A and discussion and dialogue.
Now, obviously you must have a lot of those questions pre-programmed into your head.
Correct.
How do you find the right questions to ask? Because what I always like to do when I talk to salespeople is, being a negative person, I always ask them about objections.
Correct.
I go, think about reasons why people don't want to buy from you. Oh, that's because some salesmen, that's impossible. They would never. I can sell ice to an Eskimo.
But see that would actually be on the second call, not the first call. The first call, if we're meeting for the first time, I'm just writing down a whole bunch of questions to uncover a need.
No, but
if I uncover a need properly, there won't really be that many objections on the back end because I've done a good enough job analyzing where they are.
But you're thinking of the questions to ask them to get the right answers.
They are diagnostic questions. That's correct.
So where do you get those from? Is that from experience, or is there some base questions that you could ask anybody to get these
real simple questions that start with who, what, why, where, when.
Just asking. I don't know.
No.
I got to ask. Questions. See, I got to ask the stupid questions.
So you just ask a good question to find out about the questions.
That's the only reason I did that. For that sentence, it was all a trick just to get you to tell me you're asking great questions. Thank you. That's
who, what, where, why, when.
You do know this whole thing just serves my ego.
That's right. Okay. It's the Craig show. That's why it's your show, not mine.
Yeah.
Those questions generate dialogue. Open-ended questions, opinion-finded questions. My goal is 80-20 rule, the Pareto Principle. A lot of people have heard about. 80% of your 80% of your business comes from. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is in dialogue on our first call. You should be speaking 80% of the time. You, the client, potential client. I should be speaking 20% of the time because the whole blah, blah, blah thing, and let me show you 60 screens, I'm not connecting with you. So the way I build trust is to get you to talk to me and to not talk endlessly about stuff you don't even care about, because it's the difference between, the analogy I use is the difference between a shotgun and a sniper's rifle. If I ask enough questions, ultimately, when I come back the second time, my proposal can be a sniper's rifle just hitting the target perfectly instead of just firing a whole bunch of pellets, and dear Lord, I sure hope some of these stick.
Yeah, and I find that, because I have a tendency of talking too much during these calls because I want to tell them what I know, but
right.
I was like, I've got the answer, so you ask the question, and I'm just waiting, and I shouldn't be, and I have to keep, like I said, I know I do these things, so at least I'm working on it.
It's half the battle.
At least I know I need to go to a therapist. I may not have gone yet, but at least I know. And I'm constantly, I'm trying to stop myself from, wedging my answer into the middle of the answer, which is why I don't like doing a lot of phone calls. That's why I do the podcast face-to-face.
Right.
Because I really can't tell over the phone when they're going to say something, or maybe they've come to a conclusion, but they have a second part that they want to keep going.
Right. But, I mean, it would be the equivalent of walking into a doctor's office, and she comes in and...
Oh, you have a female doctor?
I do.
You can have those?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think my wife would let that happen.
Yeah, those of you listening, I didn't do that just to be politically correct. I actually do have a female doctor.
Good for you.
But the idea is that if she just walked in and within the first 2 minutes just handed you some pills, you'd be like, what? What?
Awesome.
What? Yeah. What?
Let me refer you some friends I know.
I haven't even done a diagnosis. What's the deal? Well, I already know what's wrong.
Yeah.
The opposite is a diagnosis, right, followed by prescription. So sales professionals just want to jump on, I know what the problem is. No, you don't. Ask lots of questions.
I have headaches. Why are you giving me Viagra?
That's right. I understand it actually works for plants as well. I read in a book about that. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, you got to that point, huh?
Yeah, I did, yeah. It's a really good book. Glass half full or something? Anyway.
It's something. Don't worry about it. We're here for you. We're not here for me. Though I appreciate you trying to sell my book to me.
That's right.
Don't worry. I have enough copies of my own.
Well, at least you know I'm a good salesman.
That's right. But I have more than enough copies of my own book. But thank you for trying.
But the idea is, if friends of mine go to a therapist, this is what I'm told when friends of mine go to a therapist.
Yeah.
What I'm told
Your friend's name, Shawn.
Yeah, my friend's
Shawn Doyle.
Yeah, that's right.
Shawn Doyle. Not Dolby. Different
that's
guy.
Right. I'm told that they sit on a couch or a chair or sofa or whatever. And the therapist asks tons of questions. Well, the reason they do that is to build trust.
Well, they usually go, how do you feel about that?
Yes, and tell me about your childhoods.
Yeah,
tell me about your mother.
Yeah, this is where you do the horrible. I don't know if it's Schwarzenegger or
it's kind of a hybrid model, really.
Maybe is it Freud? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid between the two. Yes.
Yeah, so Sigmund Schwarzenegger.
Sigmund Schwarzenegger. That's right.
Or Freudenegger.
That's
there. You go. But yeah, that's what they do, and that's why I always got frustrated with therapists, is because I'm looking for answers, and it's not the answer. It's me. I have to pull it out of some wedged in horrible in the bowels of my soul.
This is what your friends tell you.
No, I know this. I'm a realist. I've been to therapy before. I know how it works and how it doesn't work.
But then you walk out and say, this person's a genius. Well, the irony is they haven't said anything.
They
just got you to talk. You haven't had that experience
No,
yet.
I didn't have that experience. I talked a lot, and nothing really getting out of it. But that's
But if we agree that the sales process is to help to build trust,
right,
then my goal is to get you to talk to me, not for me to talk to you. Plus, half the time, half the stuff a salesperson's saying is completely irrelevant. And I mean, when I was a buyer, I would sit there and say to myself in my head, that doesn't matter. I don't care about that. That doesn't matter. I don't care about that. And then finally they get to something, oh, well, that's something I'm interested in. But they gave me 80% of the stuff that I didn't care about at all. So what's the point of talking about it if I'm never going to buy it? Talk about the stuff I am going to buy that really will hit the target instead of just, the regurgitation of everything which is an ugly analogy, but
that's all right.
You get the idea.
Believe me, after some of the things that we've talked about on the podcast before,
it's kind of a clunky analogy.
That one was perfect. Don't worry about it. Compared to some other ones, that one was real smooth. One of the things, so we've got the situation that I've seen is that because we've only got about 10, 15 minutes, and I know you can cover a lot of stuff because you're an expert in a lot of ways, is that you were talking about this before we came on, is about the follow-up. Because we've got the deal.
Right.
Because we're building rapport.
Yep.
Then we find out what their needs are and what hurts them.
Right. Solve the pain.
So we have the solution.
Yep.
Or at least in our minds, we think we have the solution. And somehow we've tricked them. I mean, we've convinced them to buy our services.
Manipulated them into buying from us.
We weaseled our way into
their will.
Yeah,
that's right.
We weaseled in.
Yep.
And so now we got the deal.
Yep.
We were talking about how a lot of people just don't follow up after the sale.
Absolutely not.
There ends up being one and done kind of situation. So,
yeah, I got treated great when I was a prospect, but I got treated like poopy or something.
Poopy. Well,
that's a word that somebody I know.
I don't know if our age demographics, it might be a little too old for poopy.
Yeah, but I mean, then after the sale,
you feel like crap. Is that what you were trying to say? That's all right.
After the sale, they feel ignored and abused and neglected because the deal was done. And then, strangely, right before time for contract renewal, wow, we bringing donuts and having meetings and following up so well.
Well, how do you follow up properly? Because I've always been told if you're going to follow up, have something new. But
right.
What if you just don't have anything new at the time? I mean, you're in a situation where it's like, I sell paper.
Right.
I know they're going to need paper.
Yeah, paper's exciting.
And, well, Dunder Mifflin, I'm just going with The Office. I'm just using paper as an example. And so I know at some point, I know how much they use in a period of time. I should call back at some point.
Right. And now what am I going to talk about?
But all I can say is,
hey, new paper been invented.
Yeah, you need more paper?
Right.
That's a quick conversation.
Exactly.
Yes, no.
Right. I have people ask me that all the time. Hey, I go by, I want to go by and say hello, and I'm like, oh, hello, how are you? Good, oh, good. You gotta stop by, and you're like, what the hell? What did you stop by for?
Well, that's what I mean.
No purpose.
I couldn't do that because it's like it just feels insincere to show up just to say hello.
Right.
Of course, I feel horrible just showing up to try to sell something to them as well. It's that delicate balance. So how do you follow up properly?
Well, first of all, key is once you make the sale, do a handwritten thank you card. You will separate yourself from hundreds of other sales professionals out there in the world. Most sales professionals send a thank you email, which is very impersonal. Send a handwritten thank you card. I guarantee it always gets a great result. I buy a shirt at Lacoste in the mall, little alligator shirts.
Yeah, I know.
Great
very
shirt.
hip for 1982.
Very comfortable shirt.
Yeah.
It's all coming back now, by the way.
Yeah,
It's very hip again.
Is it? Well, every 20 years
Lacoste
it does.
is hip again.
Yeah,
that's right.
Every 20 years.
And I'm very hip, so I have to wear Lacoste shirts.
Yeah, that's pretty soon you'll be hip replacement, but
But I got a handwritten card from Maurice, who was a guy who waited on me in the store about 3 days later saying, thank you for coming to our boutique, etc. And it was handwritten, not computer generated, from Maurice at the Lacoste boutique. I was blown away.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that.
And in the age of automation, yeah.
Automation.
Is that a word now? Yeah.
Automation. Automation. Don't worry.
Can you tell I'm a professional speaker? Yes.
You know what word that kills me? Compartmentalize.
Oh,
the fact that I was able to say it correctly, I spent like 2 minutes on a podcast trying to say compartmentalize. Right. Because I sound like a monkey. It's just horrible. So don't feel bad.
But see, when people process their mail, as I know people still really do get mail.
Yeah, I know.
They just sit with their in basket and throw away all the stuff, and then they get to the handwritten card and they're like, huh? What is this? And they'll open it, and they really appreciate the time you took to write it out. So step 1, thank you card, customized with your name on the top. It's very impressive. Step 2, come up with different ways of establishing follow-up. If there's a new product line, that's obvious. If it's a new this, that's obvious.
Christmas gifts or whatever religious gift that you know of.
Any holiday, we want to do a Kwanzaa gift, whatever, but we have to know the religion of the person that we're calling on.
Well, or non-religion or whatever.
Right.
A holiday gift. How's that? Hey, look at that PC.
Right.
It's all gone. The war on Christmas.
And then the other thing is always find things of value. So I subscribe to a whole bunch of different business magazines, Inc., Fast Company, etc. Go through, and every time you see an article, you say, "Oh, well, Craig would like this." Tear it out, stick a little stick a little sticky on it, put it in the mail, and send it to him. Or if you're in the area, drop him and say, "Oh, I just wanted to drop this by to you. How are things going, etc."
So emailing a link would not be good unless it was.
Emailing a link is good. It's just all the different ways you can establish value.
Okay, so like again, we got the paper going,
Right.
And I see an article that's totally unrelated to my business, but it just says, hey, paper, the cost of paper is going down. Not that we have a sale, because
Right.
We wouldn't.
We never do.
No,
Right.
But I send it to him and say, hey, I thought you'd like this would be relevant in case you had, things are going,
Right.
things are changing. Here's something that relates or whatever.
Right. Anything related to business, anything you've talked to them about in the past, about employment, retention, whatever.
Okay.
Right? Tear it out, send it to them. Send them a link. Send them a book you found somewhere you really liked. Send them a copy of that book. Figure out all different ways to keep in touch with them by doing that. And the other great way is referring business to them. Saying, hey, I met someone. I think they'd be a great client of yours or a great prospect of yours. Not of mine, of yours.
Okay.
Old client. And I wanted to give you their name and number. I recommended them to you. Now I'm not only selling you something, I'm bringing you business.
And
That's powerful.
Well, as a salesperson, I don't do this because I'm horrible at networking, and I'll have some help with Tom Singer. But as a salesperson, you need to network, so you should be meeting more people outside that situation. So you should be able to find prospects for other people.
Right. And
hopefully.
on LinkedIn now, I can say,
and you got the 12,000 people on LinkedIn.
Yeah, hey, you should know so-and-so. He's really good at this or she's really good at that. Now, boom, I connect the two together. Becoming a connector is an important part of sales.
Now, we've only got a couple minutes left, so the last thing.
So I should talk a lot faster?
No, there's one question I should have asked earlier, but I wanted to ask you about because I know someone wanted to not do this for me because nobody wants to do anything for you. They want
Correct.
you to, they want to charge you lots of money. But what do you feel about scripts as in phone scripts? Not like word for word, because you can do a script without having word for word. You just look at it and there's like
Right.
bullet points. But what do you think about scripting?
I think scripts are a great idea under two circumstances. Circumstance number one, it's a bulleted list, so that I know what the key points are I need to hit. Number two, that people practice and rehearse, because there's so many people. We've all gotten that calls at home.
Dear sir or madam.
That's right.
What?
My last name is Doyle, and I get a guy calling me in, "Hello, Mr. Doyley. The reason I am calling this evening," and you're like, "Really? That's just pitiful."
Mr. Boyle,
That's
how can
right.
I help you?
So it's got to be natural in that person's personality and in their style. And let's say there's 2 or 3 bullet points you want them to hit. And then the other thing is, these cold calling people that call to sell you stuff at home, they're calling somebody who has no interest, right? Ideally, when I call somebody, I'm calling somebody, I've pre-qualified them by research. I've pre-qualified them by whatever methodology I've used. So I really can say, I really wanted to talk to you because I think I have a product, services, or whatever I sell that I think would help you. And so now that conversation is different because I'm not just buy this, buy that, buy that. It's making an appointment to talk about how we can work together. And if you're a fit for me and I'm a fit for you, which doesn't make me sound like I'm desperate to sell you something, I'm just trying to establish a relationship to see if we have a fit.
Yeah, because when you say a fit, that means we may not be, so don't worry about it.
I'm not going to do business with everyone.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is I think a lot of mentality is that, everyone is my client. Everyone is my customer. No,
And if I can't help you, I'll get some helps from somewhere else for you, but I may not be the one.
Yeah, but I think that people need to let go of the situation that, yes, everyone is a potential customer.
Correct.
But not everybody is a customer.
And if they shouldn't be a customer and you make them a customer, they're going to be unhappy anyway, and so they're going to drop out. You're not going to retain them because they're not going to be happy because there was no need, there was no connection.
Well, I think we had a connection today, and I'm certainly happy with what's going on. I'm not going to buy anything from you. But, Shawn, I certainly appreciate you being here. Where can people find you?
New Light Learning and Development, so it's just www.newlightlearning.com. I also, if you happen to be in the cable industry, I'm sure you have many, many listeners from the cable industry.
Well, hopefully if you market this correctly, we will.
That's right. It's ShawnSpeaksCable.com, just for my special cable clients, and there's lots of articles and resources there. So either newlightlearning.com or ShawnSpeaksCable.com, and be happy to talk to you about speaking, consulting, training for your business.
And just so people know, sales is not your only expertise. You also cover a couple other things.
28 different training topics, everything from sales effectiveness to leadership to creativity to communication skills. So I have a very broad list of topics that I do.
And then I think there's a book coming out.
Just came out yesterday, yep. Go to thesoulsurvivorbook.com. Don't have time to talk about that. It's a whole different story.
That's fine.
But it's an amazing, inspirational story about a gentleman who survived tons of adversity and despite all that was able to build a new life and thrive and do really well.
Well, I hope after this I can survive and thrive and do very well. But I certainly appreciate you being here, Shawn.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank everybody for listening this week. I especially want to thank Shawn Doyle for joining us. Remember, you can always find us at Facebook. I still think it works. I keep changing it every week, so I don't know if you can find us as easily as you could before. But you can find us on Facebook. You can definitely find us at realitycheckpodcast.com. Sign up for the RSS feed. You can find us on iTunes. Leave a comment or a review on the website or on iTunes. Either way, we'd certainly appreciate it. Have a great week.
Why don't you just call me Hitler?